I want to be very clear about schools, which is, yes, ACIP has put teachers in the 1B category, the category of essential workers. But I also want to be clear that there is increasing data to suggest that schools can safely reopen, and that safe reopening does not suggest that teachers need to be vaccinated in order to reopen safely.
Joining us once again is Dr. Rochelle Walensky, the new director of the CDC. Dr. Walensky, thank you again for being here. It is a real honor to have you. Those comments today at the COVID briefing from the White House caused a lot of consternation, got a lot of attention. I think, broadly speaking, I am not a teacher, but I know a lot of teachers, and I feel like teachers are worried that even if kids aren't necessarily at high risk, if they get infected at school, many of the teachers feel like they are at high risk. Why isn't it a prerequisite for safe reopening for teachers to get the vaccine?
Thank you for raising this, and thank you for discussing it. I want to be very clear about what the science shows and what I believe in how we should prioritize. There's accumulating data that suggests that there is not a lot of transmission and that is happening in schools when the proper mitigation measures are taken. When there is masking, when there is distancing, dedensification of the classroom, ventilation, contact tracing, hand washing, all of those things, when they're done well, the data suggests, the science suggests that there is not a lot of transmission happening in schools. And in fact, the case rates in schools are generally lower than they are in the population surrounding it. So that's what the data and the science suggest. And that we definitely want to have the community rates of disease go down. We want to make sure that that is happening as well. But the data suggests that it's safe to go back to school if you do all of those mitigation measures. Now, that said, the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices has prioritized teachers as essential personnel because they are essential to our society's function. And so they fall in the 1B category, and they should be prioritized as essential workers for vaccination. That can be true, and I can believe that to be true, and I can emphasize that I believe teachers should get vaccinated. But I also think that the science tells us that if we can do the proper mitigation measures, and I would emphasize if we have the funding to do the proper mitigation measures as is put forth in the American Rescue Plan, that we can reopen schools safely, even if all of the teachers are not vaccinated.
Is CDC going to do detailed guidance that will, if it's seen as authoritative guidance, that will be seen as effectively rules for what it takes to safely reopen schools?
They are working actively on that now, and it should be forthcoming. Absolutely. Because we know that guidance is essential.
Now, I have to ask you on that point, though. We have had a political promise, a campaign promise from President Biden that one of his goals for his first 100 days is that he wants schools to reopen. So, I mean, maybe I'm once bitten, twice shy here, given what's happened with the Trump administration in the past year. But is it reasonable to be suspicious of CDC guidance on reopening schools, given that the president has said that schools should reopen? If CDC scientists find that scientifically, actually, it's hard to safely reopen schools, and maybe we shouldn't be doing so much in-person learning, will the Biden administration, will the president let you say that publicly?
I think all of what you're saying is actually consistent. The Biden administration, and I agree with it, believes that schools should be the last thing to close and the first thing to open. That administration, and I agree with it, believes that there should be adequate funding to make sure that all of the mitigation measures are in place in schools, should be prioritized in schools so that we can get those schools open. And then there should be funding for testing in schools. There should be funding and resources for vaccination of teachers. So all of those things are consistent. And I think what that first 100-day plan tells us is this is a priority. We have to get our children back to school.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. You should know that you can follow today's top stories and breaking news and catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.